Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is Darren Doctorman.
Meow. Sorry. And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious Treksperts.
And
Oh,
we are
crap.
delighted to once again be here with the great Robert Meyer Burnett, who's come to finish our final countdown of 2024. To quote the great Yacht Rock documentary on Max, this is it. Da,
Make
da,
no
da,
mistake
da.
where you are.
This is it. Come
Rick
on,
Beato
let's
would
take it.
not agree with you.
Yeah,
What?
well, Rick Beato is not here.
He did not like
Yeah.
the documentary?
No, he does not like the term yacht rock at all, and he's
Well,
great.
neither does Steely Dan. Who's this other guy you speak of?
Rick Beato is one of
Rick
my
Beato.
favorite YouTubers. He's got over 4 million
Yeah,
subscribers, and he
I don't
talks-
know who these people are, dude.
He's got a great music channel. You should listen to it. It's really great stuff.
Okay. The only YouTube channel I know literally is the Burnett Work. I have no idea who
it.
else is on YouTube.
Hello, fellow
So-
YouTubers.
Who's on the YouTubes?
I just don't know. But this is it. What's the rest of the lyrics? I don't know. So this is number 10. And for those of you wondering what this is going to be, we gave it a great deal of thought and wanted to bring you something that's going to rock your world. And you're not going to find on any other podcast.
Or rock the cat box.
It's
Rock the cat
box, rock the litter
A
box. It's,
Klingon tongue is a soaring soul.
it's Cat Got Your
Sorry.
Tongue, the top 10 Star Trek pets. And before you tune out, we're going to be discussing a lot of other things as we bring this countdown home. So don't tune out because it's going to be a fascinating discussion.
Mm.
And this has been quite the journey we've been on. I have
Yeah.
to say, I think
I
we've
feel
done
like
a
we've
great
been through
job.
death and life together.
And as we pioneered in the last couple of years, we are going to have a postmortem next week where we'll have some of our favorite guests join us.
Oh, so
to
it's
talk
not
about
over.
Where they think, I can't believe it's over. It's not over. It's where they think we got it right and where they think we got it wrong, and
where
we'll
we
also
don't
read
care.
some viewer mail. I
Well,
didn't
we
say
never
we
cared.
cared. I just said that. And we'll see, because who knows, there may be other shows they feel were not well represented. You don't know.
And
We'll
they would
find
be
out.
wrong.
And I have to say, this is so funny. My son said today, he came up, he says, I don't know if you saw the look on the presidents' faces when they were watching the inauguration, all the former presidents, President Clinton and President Bush and President Obama and President Biden. He said it looked like you guys at the Saturn Awards when Paul Wesley won for Captain Kirk in Strange New Worlds. He said that's what you guys looked like with at the Saturn Awards. I said that because we were so horrified. And I said, yeah, I remember. Not that we don't like Paul Wesley. We like Paul Wesley. We just
He's a
don't like
nice
him
guy.
as Kirk.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were kind of horrified. So this week, I don't know if you guys saw Entertainment Weekly, which is no longer a print magazine. And boy, I used to love that magazine.
I did
Rob,
too.
didn't you
Me
love
too.
Entertainment Weekly?
Yeah, the magazine started when I worked at Warner Brothers in 89, 90. That's when the magazine started, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. You know what it was? It was just an overview of the week's pop culture. It had music, it had TV, it had movies, it had books. Loved it.
Yeah.
What it
Go ahead,
didn't
Dave.
have was a continuing audience.
Well, it was around for 20 something years. So
Yeah.
I don't think that it didn't have a continuing audience. Yeah. Most magazines,
Well, print is dead.
are gone now.
Well, another thing about entertainment, EW, Entertainment Weekly, is that there's only a certain amount of channels to watch. There's only a certain amount of movies coming out. Now there's a deluge of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That what do you cover?
Right.
Well, I think the problem is
Everything or
nobody wants
nothing.
to pay for anything anymore.
No.
Everybody thinks they're entitled to all this for free. But how are you going to get good quality journalists if you're not paying? It's kind of ridiculous. It's sad though, because Entertainment Weekly, I remember after Premiere went under, which I loved, was a great
Loved
film
it.
magazine.
Yeah.
Entertainment Weekly sort of filled that gap. It covered film, it covered TV. It was a little snarky, but it also really, went into, some degree of depth. I thought it was terrific. I mean, over the years, it had its highs and lows, like most magazines did. But it was sad when it went digital only, and I think they're a website now, and some of their best journalists, are long gone. But
Yeah.
they did do a list. It seems every magazine or website eventually around these top 10 lists. Imagine that, top 10. And they did the top 10 Star Trek shows of all time. Top 10 Star Trek shows of all time. Actually, it wasn't the top 10. They did the top 11 shows. They
because there's only 11 shows.
They wanted to rank all the shows. That's if you don't include Galaxy Quest: The Next Generation.
Right.
That's right.
But so they did 11 shows, and this was the list. And I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about this, because I've seen much worse lists, and I've seen better lists. I've seen much more egregious lists than this. This is not a horrible list, but I think it's off base. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 11 was Picard. Frankly, I think you got to divide Picard. Well, I'll let you guys talk about that. But I was going to say, I think you got to divide Picard up by Picard season 1 and 2, and Picard season 3 is its own thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. 10, they have the animated series. Number 9
Blasphemy.
is we'll get to that. Number 9, Enterprise. And then Star Trek Enterprise later on. 8 is Prodigy. Number 7 is Discovery. Number 6, Voyager. Number 5, Lower Decks. Number 4, Strange New Worlds. Number 3, The Next Generation. Number 2, what we call Star Trek, otherwise known as the original series to some. And number 1, very ballsy, Deep Space Nine. So I want to ask, starting with you, Darren, what do you think of this list?
I think Ashley wrote it.
You think
No, he
Ashley
didn't.
wrote it?
I would not have made this list this way.
A lot of the rankings sound like you though, but it's fine. Look, it's a list for people who have never watched these shows before.
Yeah.
Now I feel attacked.
I don't agree. I think this is a better list than you're giving it credit for.
No, it's a better list, but it's not good. It's not accurate. It's
What
certainly
would your
not
list be?
Trekspert worthy.
Okay, well, tell us what the accurate list according to Darren Doctorman would be.
TOS, DS9, TNG, TAS, Picard, Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, Voyager, Enterprise, Prodigy, and Discovery.
Now, you just said
no
something
lies
that-
detected. I actually fully endorse that list.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Really?
Although
Yeah,
I-
except I might like swap animated series with something just because. But I'm actually
To make
okay
it
with,
higher?
like, his placement.
I'm shocked because you said something like that blows my mind. I mean, Rob, did you flag it?
No, I was going to wait until you said it, but
Okay, because he put Strange New Worlds above Voyager and Enterprise.
yep,
Yeah,
That's
'Cause it's
insane.
it is insane.
Rob,
it is, but
discuss.
Well, okay, first of all, I think you have to I get people are going to rank what they're going to rank. People are going to be people. But I think
People
that
are people, Rob.
you really have to think about the fact that to me, Star Trek has two different eras.
Yeah.
And I would call the first era Roddenberry DNA Trek, which means that even though Roddenberry died in 1991,
Yeah.
you still had Rick Berman, who was the co-creator and producer of Star Trek from 1987 to 2005. So rightly or wrongly, you had one man
With a vision.
at the top, which means there is a cohesion to the shows and a continuity to the shows that don't exist after that era is over. And Gene Roddenberry worked with Rick Berman from the very beginning of Next Generation for the most part, and then he passed away, and then Berman stayed on Star Trek for another 14 years after Roddenberry passed, producing 5 series and 5 series, 4 series, 5 series, 4 series. So there's TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and then the movies, the 4. So that to me is Star Trek itself. Everything that comes after has no connection to that era of Star Trek and no connection at all to Gene Roddenberry, aside from the fact that it is new Star Trek. And the reasons why Star Trek was created post Roddenberry DNA era, I think, was to exploit the property as opposed by people that were more business inclined than they were creatively inclined. It wasn't like, we have a wonderful idea to how we're going to revive Star Trek. And they went back and they did something that Roddenberry DNA Trek era never did, which was go back and try and start with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy again, which I think was the biggest mistake that Star Trek ever made. It was the worst thing that ever happened because they're stuck in this weird prequel, let's rewrite the original series BS. But that's just me. We can talk about that later. In terms of the ranking of this, Star Trek is only one thing. It's the original series. Everything else is derived from that. It must be number one.
Mm-hmm.
Always and forever, because that's what Star Trek is. You can't put a derivative above the original. And I understand why people want to do that, but I don't think that you can. The original series must be number one. But the problem is, because it was made in the era of the 1960s, which, let's face it, a lot less people were even alive then. So even I'm on the downside of my life, and I was born a year after
The downside of your life.
Star Trek went on the. Well, there's more days behind me than in front of me. That's just academic. So I don't have a problem with that. But and then the penetration of Star Trek into pop culture. No other show has the pop culture penetration of culture than
He
of
just
our-
likes using that
the
word.
words-
saying penetration.
The
No,
words,
but
the words
but-
penetration and
but-
Roddenberry DNA have no
but
meaning.
I would say that other than
He's
everything,
seated.
all the iconography of the original series has far more lasting power, with one exception, and I would say that's Jean-Luc Picard. Everything else,
So
is-
would you put Next Generation as number 2 instead of Deep Space Nine?
no, I would put Deep Space Nine next, because then I would
Mhm.
rank them in how much I love the shows.
So then you would put 3 would be
TNG.
Next Gen.
Mhm.
What would
Yep.
4 be?
Probably Voyager, and then Enterprise.
Animated.
Yeah, you're right. Number 4 would be animated. It'd be the
Okay.
4 would be the animated series, and then
So far, this is
And
my
Voyager
order.
before Enterprise?
I would put Voyager before Enterprise.
Okay.
Only because there's 3 more seasons of it, and even though it's all schizophrenic, I do think there's a lot of really interesting science fiction in Voyager.
And then so that leaves you with a Picard, Enterprise, Prodigy, and Lower Decks.
Don't care.
Okay.
No, I mean, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I shouldn't say that. Of what is left, I would ask. I'll tell you what I would put first, and this might be controversial. Above all of those other shows, I would put Prodigy next. I would put Star Trek Prodigy next, because I think it was actually a legitimate attempt to try and carry the franchise forward and do something unique. The people that made Prodigy had an idea, a new idea, and I thought they carried it forward pretty well. Lower Decks is, to me, it's a comedy show. I mean, people can say that, oh, there's a lot of, I know Ashley loves it, but to me, it's a show more about it's more about the audience of Star Trek than it is about Star Trek itself.
Mhm.
And every one of those episodes I've tried to watch is just fingers on a chalkboard to me. I can't, they break the fourth wall every 2 seconds, and I have a hard time. There's a lot of great ideas and all this stuff, but it was like, to me, it was insufferable. I could barely watch that show. It just made me.
See, this
I'm like,
is so fascinating.
I
People
get it.
think we're so in lockstep, but even with the 4 of us, there's a big disconnect, which is great because we still talk to each other. We don't hate each other. We're allowed to.
No,
have
I
our
hate all of
opinions. Oh well,
And
Ashley,
then,
I want to get to you. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Well,
Finish. and we'll go to Ashley.
then I would say, so it would be, for me, it would be Prodigy. God, that's tough, man. Prodigy, and then everything else. I mean, to me, Strange New Worlds and Discovery are at the bottom of the barrel for different reasons. So
I would agree with
10 and
Strange
11.
New Worlds in terms of the writing, but I think in terms of the actual production of it, I think it's the top of the live action.
Yeah, and the thing is, I love the cast of Strange New
Yeah.
Worlds. I think the cast is great, and the look of it. I would like to look. I mean, I understand. I can live with it. I can live with
I can't live with it.
But the writing is atrocious on that show, and it lets the worst thing is it lets TOS down. Strange New Worlds could have been one of the great science fiction shows of all time. They had the cast, they just don't have writers that are up to that task.
Okay, now I want to turn to Ashley, because I think Ashley has a somewhat different perspective than Rob just offered. So you want to break down the EW list
Sure.
and how your list is different than that, as well as the two gentlemen who just articulated their feelings?
So my list is actually very close to Darren's, honestly. And I'll say, first of all, look, if I've got a shtick on this podcast, if I have a lane other than I vacillate between being like perpetually 12 years old and then occasionally saying like Beavis, suddenly like losing my mind and saying something smart. I'm the DS9 guy, right? Like that's my thing.
You're the
And
DS9
I am
and
here
lower
to tell
decks
you,
guy.
yeah, I completely agree with Rob.
There's
That-
a reason we keep him.
Yeah, you can't make a list of the best Star Trek shows that does not have Star Trek, no bloody A, B, C, or D as number one. It's number one. Even Deep Space Nine, which is a great show in its own right, is dependent on the existence of the original series. The reason why it's brilliant is because even though it comes after the Next Generation, it's not really dependent on the Next Generation to exist.
No.
But in order for it to exist thematically, it requires the original series.
Mhm.
The original series must be. And in order for there to be a DS9 or for anybody to give a fuck, like the original series had to be great, which it largely was. So original series is number
And
one.
Stan will still be there.
And Stan, and still will have Stan.
Flawlessly.
DS9 would be number two. Next Generation would be number three. I think Picard season 3 would be number 4.
But
then-
that list doesn't break Picard season 3 out that
Okay,
way.
well then, okay, if we have to take all three of their seasons.
No, but
then
we can.
But we can.
Because it's a different show.
Okay,
I think
so then-
I think that's a legitimate, and I'm glad you said it, because if I were doing a list, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Picard season 3 would come next
Yes.
after TNG.
Yeah.
I think after that, I would
Animated
probably
series.
go with the animated series. Then I would go with Lower Decks. Then I would probably say Voyager. Then maybe because I think that Rob makes a good point. Maybe, well, and I'm so divided on Strange
say
New Worlds because
Prodigy.
I also agree with everything you guys have said. Look, here's the reason why I'm putting Voyager and Enterprise like so low, right? They commit the unforgivable sin. They're just fucking boring. They're boring. Like they managed to make Star Trek boring. Occasionally Voyager had some great episodes. Strange New Worlds is entertaining in the way that the third season of the original series was entertaining even when it wasn't good.
It's entertaining in the
It's
way
like-
Cops is entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, shit's
Or
happening
cheaters.
on screen and it's okay, fine. But I'm still going to be angry about it. So I guess like I don't know, man. I think like Darren, I would probably put Strange New Worlds ahead of Voyager and Enterprise. I would probably put Prodigy ahead of Voyager and Enterprise. And then bringing up dead last, probably behind Picard season 1 and 2 is Discovery.
100%.
Just because at least Picard season 1 and 2 had Patrick Stewart in it. You know, it's like, it's just this you're right, Mark. I don't think this is the worst list of these things that I've ever seen, right? It's like it kind of gives way too much credit to some of the new stuff. By the same token, it's not filleting it. Like it's like, it's the new stuff. It's just so great and everybody loves it.
It's not penetrating with the Roddenberry DNA.
That's right. It's not penetrating in spewing the seed of its ideas everywhere. It's, you know,
It's filleting Strange New Worlds, though.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. But it is a defensible list. I can hear in my head, I can hear some of our friends who we may talk to in another week agreeing in large part with how this list rolls.
Fascinating. Well,
Me too,
I'm
I can
glad
see
we had a chance to discuss this because it is, I think this is one of the few times a list like this is worthy of discussion.
No,
because
now
often-
you, Altman, how do you vote?
Well, I have to say, it's interesting because Darren and Ashley are very simpatico. Not surprising. I'm much more simpatico with Mr. Burnett. In fact, pretty much in line with his feeling. I mean, I think I would, I think the TOS thing it's what we always say about The Godfather and Godfather 2 and Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars. Yeah, it's very easy to say, maybe Empire did things better than Star Wars, but it couldn't exist without Star Wars.
Yeah,
so
like
it
a
has
table
to be
with
Star
no
Wars at
legs.
number one. It's
Yeah.
the same thing with The Godfather. As brilliant as Godfather 2 is, it has to be The Godfather as your number one pick, right? It is
Yeah.
number one. It's the same thing with the original series. Even though Deep Space Nine did so many things brilliantly, it's building on
Building on their
foundation
work.
of the original series of Star Trek. It is Star Trek. So TOS 1, Deep Space Nine 2, TNG a close third, then Picard season 3 at 4, and then the animated series at 5. And I'm kind of done. I'm done. Oh, you want
Top
you want
5
to-
Star Trek shows.
Look, I agree with Rob. I think Prodigy is the most vital and original of the new era shows. I have to say, look, Lower Decks. It's so funny because I get Ashley's love for it. I don't like animated comedies. It's not my thing. It's like I respect it. I think they've done some great stuff.
Just think if it was a musical.
I love, how it muses on Star Trek. Yeah, it's just not my thing, which it's like, I get why people love it. I don't begrudge them that. It's just not my thing. It's not my bag, baby.
It's not my bag, baby.
And so I get, and I love to hear, Ashley go off on like, oh my God, this episode of Lower Decks last night was so great. But I would have to say, look, probably next for me is Voyager and Enterprise, because to me, those are Star Trek shows. And they all have genuine classics, even though they're few and far between. Lower Decks and Enterprise both have genuine classics, and Enterprise has the Manny Koto fourth season, which has some really great episodes. So, for me, coming on the heels of the animated series, it got to be Voyager and Enterprise from the silver era, as opposed to the new era, and then Prodigy, Lower Decks, and I don't know. You guys put Discovery behind Picard. That season 2 of Picard is so awful.
It's not as bad as season 1.
It makes no sense.
Well,
Neither
It's
is
all
season one.
nonsense.
neither is season 1.
I know,
It's like
but
we're debating how many angels are taking a shit on the head of a pin.
it's basically, like, I respect it because I understand what they had to go through during COVID. But the whole thing with the alternate universe and being in the, basically spending the whole thing in Los Angeles in the, in present day, and the, one of the more interesting characters on the show is arrested by ICE. It's like, it's just really, like, I really like that Santiago Cabrera. Like, I think he was an interesting guy on that show. But it's like, I can't even dignify. And then, and Discovery, unfortunately, it just, the writing just was never there. I love, I love Sonequa Martin Green. I've loved her in a lot of things, particularly Walking Dead. I think she's great as a starship captain, but the writing was just never there for her.
Her character.
None of this is about the cast, like of any of those shows.
I'm not a fan of that ensemble remotely.
It's very Canadian.
I think some of the new characters they created for Picard are probably more interesting than the characters in Discovery. So it gets very muddy for me. But I would have to say I align more, I think, with Rob on this than I do with the two of you. And I know that next week, I'm sure when we bring on our guests, their list will be very different than the ones we just put out there. And I didn't even talk about Strange New Worlds. I have nothing to say.
It is what it is.
I don't even give it the credit for the production values, because I feel like you can't show in the Pike era and not, we've actually turned down guests involved in the production of the show just because I don't want to be that person who has somebody to a dinner party and then tells them what they don't like about, it's just like.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, give me 10 minutes to rant about the sound design on that show, or to rant about like the visual effects, not necessarily in terms of how pretty they are, but just in terms of things like how starships look when they move, that things are weightless, that it's like watching paper mache boats like float around in the effing wind, which makes me bananas. But we shouldn't be ranting about these shows right now, should we?
No, and I got to say, look, I just want to say maybe the third season, will be great. The first two seasons didn't cut it for me. It's a great cast. We all agree about that. But, it just doesn't feel like it's in the same universe as the original series.
And now it's
obviously not. It's collided with canon again and again. And, it's just, I find it very, I think what people respond to is, it once again shows how vital a lot of those characters were, the Roddenberry characters. People love that, and they love what the actors have brought to them. And I think they love an episodic Star Trek. I think that they were very much, over this whole idea of everything needs to be serialized. And so they're responding to a show that feels like Star Trek, that it has the Star Trek gestalt. But it's not doing Star Trek as well as it could. And that's a product of the writing, and I think some of the production design, which I think it looks like a discotheque. No pun intended.
Also, fundamental lack of understanding of the characters. The idea that they keep removing agency from Spock. He's got a mental disorder. He had to be given a musical instrument to make him feel better, and it's like what. Everyone wants to impose. It's a show where all the writers are imposing themselves on the characters, and a lot of writers do that. I understand that, but they're not. The characters are not outside them. They're not trying to come up with interesting things. They're trying to apply or put on their own peccadillos onto the characters, and it's a weird way to write characters, because it's not a Joss Whedon show, which is what everybody who writes for modern Star Trek seems to have taken all their cues from. Yeah,
and a lot of colloquialisms. Nothing about it feels like the 23rd century. A lot of modern day jargon.
Well, you can tell they haven't read science fiction. They're not,
yeah, for sure.
And that's the problem, is that science fiction is inherently a literary genre, and you can tell that there's no science fiction background. And original Star Trek was written by many people that were science fiction novelists, science fiction short story writers, some of the great fantasists of the mid 20th century that were also screenwriters, that were playwrights. They were people of letters.
And it's unforgivable to bring T'Pring in.
Oh, it's unforgivable what they did with the Gorn.
Yeah.
So look,
but
I just
at least the Gorn didn't make Spock in the original series pining after a 7-year-old.
God
for
damn it.
no reason.
You know what? Here's the bitch of it with T'Pring in Strange, and I'm just going to say this. And it's, I am in such a weird, if I imagine that she's a completely different character than T'Pring.
Yeah, but she's not.
I wish she was, because I actually think she's like one of the better characters on the show.
If she had been Layla Kalomi.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
I would have no problem with it.
I just want to say, obviously this is how we feel. Nobody's begrudging. If these are some of your favorite shows, we're not telling you not to love it. We're articulating why we don't find these shows endearing, why we're disappointed. But as I've said before, we're kind of like Fox Mulder, at least speaking for myself. I want to believe. So I always hope that maybe the next one, next season, next show will be better. We'll keep an open mind, and with the hope that they get it right. Nobody wants to see bad Star Trek. We want to see good Star Trek.
And I would also point out, Mark, that there's whole new generations of people whose first experience with Star Trek are these new shows. So
Yes.
they're not coming at it from the perspective that we are. And like you just pointed out, I would never want to take away someone's enjoyment of anything. And
What was the
people who-
line about joy? You crushed their joy.
Destroyer's
There's no
joy.
joy. No.
Oh,
No, I was thinking in
what
Chain of
Riker
Command.
says in Chain of Command. Yeah, there's no joy
yeah.
in what you do.
There's no joy in what you do. It's like, believe me, we're looking for the joy.
Yeah.
And look, the great thing about Star Trek is no matter when you come to Star Trek, there's so much of it. Star Trek speaks for itself. You don't need to listen to us to tell you that the original series is good. It speaks for itself, and you'll
The
discover that when
only
you watch
people we have a problem with are the people that would criticize us for criticizing it,
Right.
because they're like, oh, they just hate.
Double dumbass on you.
No, I think we dislike it for the reasons that we have articulated.
Yeah.
And in no way are we telling you not to enjoy what you enjoy. This is why we don't like these shows, or some of these shows, or we don't find them as enjoyable as maybe other shows. But that's not. Trust me. If we could just say we love every Star Trek show we've ever seen, I think we'd be thrilled.
And
But
we
we
would have an
can't.
incredibly boring podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, but okay, there's enough about that because we got some important
We
business.
got serious
to get to.
stuff to talk
We
about.
got some serious stuff because when we come back, we're going to do our top 10 countdown of Star Trek pets. Cat got your Trek? Stay tuned and find out. Okay, we're back. It's the top 10 Star Trek pets. We told you, we promised you a great episode to end our 10-part, 10 by 10 holiday countdowns. And Rob's so glad he stuck around for this one.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah. So you're probably wondering, were there 10 pets in the history of Star Trek? Well, you're about to find out because we have the definitive list of Star Trek pets, starting with number 10. Robert, tell us who is our number 10 pick.
Well, our first pet really doesn't have a name. And I have a question that before I launch into this, I need to ask you guys something because as I did some research, and yes, I've done some research before some of these shows, I came to find out, according to, if you go online and do research, that my impression of this animal seems to be wrong. And I'm talking about the canine from planet Alpha 177. A very cute canine that comes to us from an early episode of the original series called The Enemy Within. And for those of you who remember, that's the one where Captain Kirk is split in two by the transporter. And when they find out that there's a transporter problem, we get to meet for the very first, well, actually, it's not the very first time, but we get to see, I believe, our first Star Trek pet.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's one other pet that I want to
there's
talk
one
about
other pet.
later. There's one other pet. We'll get to that later. But this was a cute pet. It is a canine that has a big horn in the middle of its head. It's incredibly cute.
And you got to stop him from using that horn against the couch. That's the really.
Oh, I tell you. But now here's the question. When I've watched this episode my entire life, I thought that this animal was on the Enterprise already. I did not think it was indigenous to planet Alpha 177. And I thought that
it's not clear.
It's not clear. And according
But they beamed it up from the transporter. How
well,
would
yeah,
it
but
have
they
gone
took it,
separate?
they beamed it down and beamed it back up.
Yeah,
See,
good
because
point.
we had already seen
Right.
labs in the Enterprise that had various forms of life. And I figured it made sense to me that maybe this was somebody's pet on the Enterprise. You never know. It's just there. Now, according to Star Trek websites and things like the Star Trek Wiki, these are indigenous life forms to planet Alpha 177.
Right.
So either way, it suffers a horrible fate.
Because those
It does.
mountains
It's
are
so
made of
sad.
kibble.
And
Wasn't it sad when it died because it was
Yeah.
separated? You know.
yes, it
It's
dies, but I have to
sad.
tell you, it was really cute. And even as a kid, I always liked it and wanted one.
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I get that cute dog? And it's clearly a dog wearing makeup.
How much is that dog in the window?
Now I have to say, unfortunately, this is a time where there was no PETA or PACA on set. They did not treat that dog great back in the day. You know.
Why
they
you gotta
did.
tell me that?
Yeah,
I
and
gotta
how
harsh my
they
mouth.
But he didn't really grab onto it and wrestle with it.
No,
that was
no,
all
but
fake.
putting the makeup on,
dun,
it was not. The animals were not treated as well
It's
back
just
then.
a little hat. It isn't a
It's
big
just
deal.
a little hat. Darren's taking their
They didn't
side.
staple
I'm
it
not-
to its head.
As someone who
I
used
remember
to
reading
dress up
the notes on this episode.
as
the
someone who
memos.
used to dress up his cats in Build-A-Bear costumes, this was not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean,
But you were
until I
doing
did
that in
some research.
1966.
Yeah, yeah. But I did like this creature. I've always liked it, and every time I ever watch this episode, it always
I
put a
never
smile
forgiven
on
it
my
for the death
face,
of my
even though
brother.
what
Which
happened
one are
to
you
it does
talking
not.
about? Are you talking about the docile one,
The dog, yeah,
Or-
the nice looking one, not the mean,
or the
you know,
the barky one?
the aggressive barking one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, this episode and that animal, it hits hard for me because, and I'll probably end up talking about this particular pet a little bit later. Maybe we'll find out because we haven't got to the whole list. But I had a dog when I was living in Glendale. He was a beagle. His name was Opie. And he had a split personality. We used to say that he was part beagle, all evil, because either he was the sweetest dog in the world, or he'd rip your face off, man. But it was just, you didn't know on any given day which dog he was going to be. And if he had gone through the transporter, I feel like he would have been split in two. And but I don't know that he would have died. I think that the premise of the episode is wrong. I think that if Obi had been able to split off his evil half, he would have been a much happier dog, and I would have been a much happier dog.
Well, I mean, again, you know, the retconning of this animal by Star Trek fandom Wikipedia sites seems to say that it's indigenous to planet Alpha 177.
There may be a whole episode of Strange New Worlds next season about it.
There you go.
Or at least the short trek.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that was the test animal, which may or may not be from Alpha 177.
And may or may not be a pet. That's the weird part.
And
Yeah.
it's the friendly one, not the evil one.
Right, the friendly one.
Yeah. Okay. That was our pick, and of course, you know, it's like it was cute to see like a dog, like a weird alien dog on Star Trek as kids. Weird.
Yeah.
You like it.
We liked it indeed. Okay, that brings us to number 9 and Darren Doctorman.
Number 9 is something that is, dare I say, familiar. It is, in fact, the regular-sized and giant cat that the alien Sylvia becomes in Cat's Paw. The title.
So they have cats in the title. You
They have
gotta
the
go with
cats in the
Cat's
title.
Paw.
You got to go with Cat's Paw. Now the question is whether or not our crew members from the Enterprise were Sylvia's pets, because you know, she really wasn't a pet, but we're classifying her as one, because you know, she obviously could walk into a room and Korob could.
But she
talk to her.
transforms into the cat. She's Sylvia. She's the big cat.
She's Sylvia. Yeah, she's also
She's the cat.
Yeah. No, I know, but usually she's you know, she's a pipe cleaner creature. But
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I understand now.
Oh, yes, the one with the rubber
I
squid
hate when
face.
you refer to a pipe cleaner. It's like this imaginative alien from a
Absolutely,
distant
but-
world that Star Trek did better than anybody.
That's correct.
You diminish it by
With
calling it a
pipe
pipe
cleaners.
cleaner.
No,
creature.
calling it a pipe cleaner creature gives it even more magic because
It's
it
so
works so well.
brilliant.
It's
Yeah. So
awesome. And when you
cool.
see it at the end, it's one of the great aliens.
It's great. It is one of the most alien aliens on Star
Yeah.
Trek.
It's so alien, and that's what I love. That the original series wasn't afraid to do that. Show
Yeah.
us like aliens from 1,000 worlds. It's very cool. And that was Sylvia the Black Cat. Okay, so audience, I look to you. You still with us, audience? You still with
I'm
us?
not.
We're counting down our top 10 Star Trek pets, but it gets exciting from here. So number 8 on our list, and to tell us what it is, we look over to the Octonaut himself, Ashley Edward Miller. The Bubble Guppy.
It's what time is it? It's time for lunch. You know, there are pets who I've actually got nothing.
You got nothing.
I got
You got
nothing.
nothing.
Look, man, number
Wow,
8
there's a first
is
time.
a fish who is very hard to kill. I'm talking about Captain Picard's pet fish, his lionfish, Livingston, who Captain Jellicoe unceremoniously moved out of the ready room in Chain
fact,
of Command.
the rumor has it that he flushed him.
That would be great. I imagine like this whole Finding Nemo adventure for Livingston. It never happened.
Don't give them ideas, Ashley. Don't give them ideas.
Finding
Maybe the next
Livingston.
damn thing, like in season 4 of Strange New World, just time traveling Livingston, like comes back. Look, anyway,
He's gained sentience,
That's right.
and he's come back.
He becomes a fish
he wants
traveler.
to touch the creator,
He wants to put Picard in a bowl.
right? Or he just wants to make contact with all the lionfish in the 20th century. He manages to survive the crash of the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
Meridian 3. I mean,
That's
this
amazing.
is one
because
tough
I
fish.
never had a goldfish that made it a day after one of those carnivals. Like, you go to carnival and you get the ball and the thing,
Yeah.
and they give you like a goldfish and
Yeah,
say, "Hey,
in a
you go,
bag.
kid," in the bag. And I was, I got a goldfish. They never like lasted a day. It was really traumatic. Livingston, 7 years.
7 honking years.
Nothing happened to him. He was impossible. You're right, hard to kill.
The computer regulated its water.
But that is
So great,
ancient
AI.
for a lionfish. That is like the Methuselah of freaking lionfish. I get continuity, but come on. Livingston,
I
you know
think
what?
it's
Livingston,
so
maybe he was a
cool.
Q. You don't know.
Maybe he was a Q. I'm sure there's a book about that, right, Rob?
Yeah,
Somebody must
I'm
have written a
writing
book
it
about
I'm
right now.
Livingston.
sure. Like Cetacean Ops, the two whales that are in the Enterprise D, Cetacean Ops,
By the way, speaking of books, I got to tell you. So I'm at the bookstore this weekend with my daughter, and we see at the film and TV section, there's this thing called Little Cinephile. It's these children books devoted to different genres, like my first film noir book, my first sci-fi book, and you know what it has in it? Logan's Run.
No.
It has Zardoz, Logan's Run. It's the greatest. I gotta get it. I mean, even I wish I knew about these. I wish they existed when my kids were young. But if you have young kids, I'm talking to you, Lucas Hardwick. You gotta get this book for your kid.
Does it
gun is
explain
good?
Does it explain to
The
kids
penis
what
is
the
evil?
circuit is?
I don't think it
The
gets
Love
into that
Shop?
kind of detail.
I
It
love
doesn't have
this
the Love
book.
Shop, but it does have a great shot of Michael York and Jenny Agutter. It's like illustrations.
When I was 9 and saw her disrobe, I was like, I want that.
They have my
Yeah.
first Yakuza book, my first. It has all these different genres, but the sci-fi one and the film noir one were like
My first erotic
the bee's
suspense
knees.
book.
Yeah,
My first
Sharon Stone in
lesbian
Basic
vampire book?
Instinct.
Yeah.
So,
I like fucking, Lieutenant. Do you like fucking?
You're not very smart, are you? I like that in a man. Little body heat.
Anyway, I just sorry to go off on a tangent there, but I thought we said all we had to say about Livingston the fish.
Oh yeah, we did. Miles back, we finished talking about Livingston.
Okay, well then that brings us to number 7, and once again it's DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
They say that a pet and
There's no devil, Jim.
and an owner start to look like each other after a while. Well, that kind of happens in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, when we meet Kruge and his pet Targ. We think it's a Targ. It's a little more lizard-like than other Targs that we may have seen along the way. But
Well, we don't talk
breed.
about
Different breed.
talk about that. We don't talk about that.
Different breed. Come on,
That's
man.
right. Klingon
But,
Targs didn't always have the ridge on their head.
Well, that's true. But it's really interesting because it really gives a nice little bonus to Kruge's character, and he cares for him.
He's a dog lover.
He's a dog lover.
He loves
And,
his Targ.
He's not a good dog lover because he won't feed his own dog, and I don't like that.
Yeah,
I
but
think that
he's the
as a-
captain, so he makes his crew feed the Targ. It's much like Lex Luthor
Rancor.
telling Otis to feed the babies.
I don't
That's
like
right.
that. I think he would feed his own dog.
I know he should feed his own Targ.
Maybe
And then
he
he'd
does.
take
Maybe
good
you
care
just
of him
caught him
during
on a
the
bad
battle.
day. He was super busy. He needed his
He's
assistant.
busy.
Hey man, could you
He
feed the
did-
dog for me?
Darren, tell us a little bit about that, because of course the Targ was articulated by your good friend and podcasting partner Kirk Thatcher, tell us a little bit about the
Kirk,
Targ and how that
Kirk
works.
likes to talk about the time that he puppeted the Targ underneath Chris
You
Lloyd's
did what?
chair,
Oh,
and his face basically plastered up against the bottom of the chair where Chris Lloyd was sitting, and so he basically spent a whole lot of time down there and puppeted the puppet.
That's
Garen, I
not
need you
my
to do me a
puppet.
favor. I need you to do me a big favor. I need you to never say Kurt spent a lot of time under Christopher Lloyd's chair puppeting the Targ. Okay, just
I
don't need that.
can't not state truth, Ash. I can't.
Karen
Just-
Walker, I would like to apologize to you now in advance.
She knows
It
what
took
she's
you until
getting
now
into.
to apologize to her.
Please,
She knows,
Um,
Doctor. She knows.
she's looking forward to that. She's
But
like, "Oh, thank
the
God it
Klingon
happened."
Targ, it's interesting. We hadn't really seen anything like that before, and I don't know. I mean, I think that the influence of Star Wars is really there in Star Trek 3. The Targ,
Oh yeah,
the
the
bar,
Targ and the bar and the biplane game.
yeah. You definitely see Leonard sort of cribbing from Star Wars.
Hey, I got a
Bar,
great
whatever.
idea.
Let's give him a little pet.
Let's have a mushroom space station. Yeah.
But the Klingon Targ is one of the more memorable aspects of that character.
Well, it's certainly memorable.
The little creature at his heel that's nipping.
It had the
at
virtue of
America.
never having been tried.
Mm.
Exactly. But we did introduce us to the Klingon Targ in the movies, and it would later become a staple of later Star Trek shows. So
I don't know if
that
it was
the
a
Klingon Targ.
staple. It was
Yeah, I
mentioned
didn't need
once.
'em. No.
Well, it was mentioned in a couple of. It's been mentioned a couple of times.
Worf
Targ.
had a Targ.
Well,
think
maybe we'll find
at
out
one
about
point.
that later.
Maybe
he
we
did.
will.
Maybe we will.
And that brings us to number 6 on our list. Ashley, you'll tell us what it is.
Yes, I will. Coming in at number 6 is from. I know you guys are like, of course Ashley's going to bring up this one from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It's Chester the cat, who had his first appearance in an episode called Honor Among Thieves, and I bring that up because Chester and Honor Among Thieves were the brainchildren of a dear friend of mine who was Ira's assistant for a very long time, Phil Kim. Phil, shout out to you, my friend. Thank you for bringing Chester into the world. What can I say? He's a cat. He's fuzzy. Molly O'Brien ended up loving him after Chief O'Brien adopted him. What else is there to say other than, he brought happiness into the life of a child?
Well, what's not to love about Chester? I got to point out, this is interesting. Pradeep P on social mentioned that he really loved our spy episode, but that he thought we missed one with Honor Among Thieves, where Brian goes undercover with the Orion Syndicate, which I have to admit I had almost done for my honorary mention, and somehow it didn't become my honorary mention. But so I'm glad to see this episode, very off concept Deep Space Nine episode, the Donnie Brasco of Deep Space Nine represented here, and I actually think it's great because Nick Tate, who plays the character who's mixed up with the Orion Syndicate, Liam Bilby in this, has this beloved cat, Chester. And so when he walks to what is inevitably going to be his death, after he's betrayed by Miles O'Brien, he says, just please take care of the cat. And O'Brien does take care of Chester, and he comes back in a couple of episodes. So in a way, Chester is a very important character in the Star Trek and Deep Space Nine mythos, and he's cute as can be. Love that Chester. So I'm not
Adorable.
surprised to see him so high on our list. And Pradeep, I hope you're happy that Honor Among Thieves finally made the list, just not the one you thought it would.
True.
All right.
Okay, well, at number 5, I'm sure this will come as no surprise to anyone. A beloved pet is about to make his appearance on the list. Robert Meyer Burnett, tell us what number 5 is.
Well, I'll tell you, there's something really interesting about this pet. This pet has a mirror universe counterpart that is a different breed. Believe it or not.
This isn't a book, right?
No.
Oh,
It is
in,
canonical.
Mirror Dark-
It appears. Yes, it appears in an episode.
Okay.
And this is a very literary minded, very literate pet. And I'm speaking, of course, of Porthos, Jonathan Archer's dog, who was a beagle in our universe and a Rottweiler in the Mirror universe, and of course named after one of the great characters in Alexandre Dumas' story, The Three Musketeers.
Alexander Dumas.
Porthos, Athos Aramis, and of course D'Artagnan.
Right.
And he's a beagle, probably because Gene Hackman had a beagle in Crimson Tide, but who knows? I
You
do think
maybe I never.
No,
thought about
actually,
that.
I'm
Paramount
pretty sure.
Paramount movie. Paramount.
No, it's
movie?
not. It was
I mean, no, you're
Touchstone.
right. It's Touchstone. I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Beagles-
but still, I
Tony
think
Scott's
they-
Paramount, though. What But yes,
The thing about beagles is that they are incredibly trainable. And although they have, very sort of well-developed pack instincts, they can also be very independent and cool. And they're fairly easy to.
They can be Joe Cool.
They can be
Joe
Joe
Cool. Nice. That was a good one
damn
there.
right they can, and they
That
write
was a
novels and
good
fly
one.
biplanes.
He's referring, of course, to the classic Snoopy character. It's portrayed in
right.
the Peanuts. Joe Cool.
I'm just saying
I
this
do
is
wanna
a
point
former
out
beagle owner and lover. I didn't love I wasn't a beagle's lover.
Okay, all right.
This actually is interesting because Porthos was born to the mother of one of Jonathan Archer's ex-girlfriends.
So he was a son of a.
What?
Yeah,
Is this canon? Is this in the show?
yeah, dude. A night in
Porthos?
sick bay.
Oh,
yeah.
nine sick bay. Well, of course, that is the episode in which Porthos gets very ill, and we're afraid Porthos is going to die, and they
Gonna
have to
die.
say, because he
need that
took
in
him
my
like
life.
an idiot
I don't wanna
to the
watch that
planet.
episode.
It's like, I can't believe that Archer takes Porthos to a planet. I'm going to take him for a walk, and then he takes him to the decon chamber and thinks, oh, he's going to be fine. It's like, yeah, we'll put a little bit of this lotion on him, and it's like, and
Puts
everything
the
will be
lotion on its
fine.
dog.
Oh, going
Yeah, and Porthos comes from a litter of a total of 4 dogs, which is why they were named after the Three Musketeers and D'Artagnan.
You know
And
what?
so-
I think Enterprise would have been like 73% more entertaining if Porthos had been the captain.
Oh my God! It would have just been the 4 dogs who are the crew. It would
That's
have been
right.
like pigs in space, except it would have been
Right. It would have been
beagles in
Paw
space.
Patrol. Really.
And you could have
been
brought
Paw
occasion
Patrol.
onto the bridge, and they could have had these great arguments.
You could
Great.
probably sell that to Paramount right now.
Oh, hell
because
yeah,
the
dude.
Paw
Let's-
Patrol franchise is more successful for them than Star Trek. So,
Let's
okay,
call them
Star
tomorrow.
Trek meets Paw Patrol, and it's
That's
about a
right.
bunch of dogs on a starship
And
that
one
go on
Cation.
crazy adventures. And one cat.
Absolutely. 100%.
Section
Like, it's
K9.
just-
Chester.
We're going to make $1 billion.
That would have been an episode of Lower Decks right there.
Yep.
They would have made Porthos like uber intelligent, and he would have become. Jonathan
He's a beagle.
Archer
He
would have-
was uber
would have
intelligent.
Devolved. Well,
Only
that's true.
briefly, and then he goes, "I'm forgetting."
Yeah,
Lord
And
dog.
it's like,
so it'd be
Wait,
like Awakenings, or it'd be like Flowers for Charlie, Flowers for Algernon.
yep. No, it'd be like that race of the givers of pain and delight who need Porthos to power their day, and they put him in, but then they got to put the brain back into the
Porthos's
dog.
brain.
And Porthos was one handsome dog, by the way.
He was
Oh my
a
God,
really
beautiful,
cute
beautiful beagle.
dog.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was weird that they had kids on the ship in Next Gen. It was even weirder that the captain had a dog in Enterprise, because like they go into all these dangerous situations. It's like, would the captain really have a dog? I don't know.
Come on, man. If Gene Hackman can have a dog in Crimson Tide, anybody
That's
can
true.
have a dog.
I guess that's true.
And at least they got off the ship.
Also, he had a Jack
Go
Russell
in a-
Terrier,
in a
not a
sub-
beagle.
That's true.
Yeah,
He had a,
that's
that's
true.
right. He had a Jack Russell Terrier. That's true.
the prerogatives of rank, I guess. But
true.
but he was cute. I mean, no matter what you think of Enterprise, maybe it'll go higher on my list because of Porthos, my EW list.
That's right.
I don't know. I like that Porthos. It's no wonder he's.
I'm
number
liking
5
this
on our
Paw
list.
Patrol thing.
I am too. Okay. Well, that was Porthos at number 5, and that brings us now to number 4. And once again, Darren Doctorman.
Number 4 just brings back the idea that Star Trek, the original series, loves black cats. And so does that strange alien human spy, Gary Seven, in Assignment Earth. His familiar is named Isis, and Isis is a black cat. I'm not exactly sure that it's not the same cat that was in Cat's Paw, to be quite honest with you. It may very well be. because obviously they brought in actors again and again on the show. But Isis is very smart. Isis can communicate with Gary Seven, and in the larger story about the agents like Gary Seven, they always had an animal partner that was of alien background. And obviously, as we find out in the ending of the episode, it's a shapeshifter that shifts into a very interesting shape of a lovely young black-haired woman that makes Terry Garr very jealous, apparently. And Isis is very smart. Isis saved the day a couple times. And I'm suspicious about who made the vocalizations for Isis, because it sure sounds to me like it might have been
Jimmy Doohan.
Majel Barrett.
Oh, well, probably.
I have no confirmation of this, but I would guess that it is. Anyway.
Stands to reason.
Yeah.
I just want to say that if Paramount wants to pass on our Paw Patrol meets Enterprise pitch, then we have another one, which is, of course, Paw Patrol meets Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
With Isis and
Mission
Gary Seven.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's a space spies where we have a space spy and his cat, and they go on incredible missions. Mission Impossible. Yeah, that's great. So if you don't like the other idea, we got tons of these Paw Patrol.
We got a
ideas.
million of them.
Yeah,
Star
all
Trek
kinds of
meets
shit
Paw
with dogs
Patrol
and cats.
meets Assignment Earth.
Wow.
No?
No.
I think it's great.
No.
Let's do it.
You know what?
It's got
Put
a
it through the
title
algorithm.
and a
Put
poster.
it through the
That's what
algorithm.
matters.
It's going to greenlight it. Forget people. Let's just do the
Bum,
algorithm.
bum, 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 bum,
AI can't come up with this stuff.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. That was Isis. Isis is great.
I love
I
Isis.
love when she transforms into April Tatro and
Yeah.
and Terry Garr's like, what the? And then she calls out
who's
Gary
that?
Lansing, Gary Seven, Robert Lansing, and it's like she's back to being the cat.
Yeah.
And that's one good looking cat with the little necklace and everything. And
Absolutely.
she's really helpful. Like, it's no wonder Isis is so high on our list because, how do you dismantle an atomic bomb? U2 asks. Bring Isis.
Yeah.
That's right.
Isis will do it. She can dismantle an
Thank you,
atomic
Isis.
bomb.
I know how to open it.
She is like super helpful. I've never had a cat that is that helpful.
No.
As Isis is.
No. Isis is?
Isis?
Yeah. Almighty Isis.
Almighty. Thank you.
Her name is not Almighty Isis.
It
She
is a
says,
free enterprise.
No, she says, "Oh, mighty Isis,"
Almighty Isis.
not Almighty Isis.
Rob, can
Joanne
you
Cameron,
get
right? Oh my God.
What did
That's
she
true.
say?
Love
She
her.
But she says
Almighty
Almighty
Isis.
Isis.
Almighty
No.
Isis.
No, no, she's saying
Almighty Isis.
Isis is mighty.
Oh my!
She doesn't call
Gee,
herself
Isis.
almighty.
Oh, zephyr winds which blow on high, lift me now so I can fly. Yeah,
That's beautiful, Darren.
thank you. I just
Wow.
wrote that.
It's yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, Isis. That Isis is number 4. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You don't want to be without Isis. She can really help in so many ways. She's great. What do you
So-
think's going on with her and Gary Seven? Isis.
Oh, they're
think?
fucking.
I wasn't quite going to put it like that, but okay. Rob, what do you think's happening there with Isis and Gary Seven?
I think Ashley's right, and it's I don't know what doggy style's like with the two of them, but that's got to be confusing. But yeah, I
Doggy
think
with a
that
cat.
they think, they're having some hot alien sex.
And at number 3, Ashley Edward Miller.
Speaking
number 3
of
on our
pussy.
list of top 10 Star Trek pets.
Well, coming in at number 3, he's a good cat and a pretty cat. I am referring to Data's cat, Spot, and Worf will feed him. The reason why Spot ranks so high on this list, I think, is because they actually managed to take the pet and integrate the pet with the character of Data. Spot actually had a role to play, which was humanizing Data without making Data human. He was part of Data's journey. He appeared in a bunch of episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think
Brent hated the cats,
which is so funny. He was in Generations, and he survived.
which is a
much
very
like
beautiful
Livingston.
moment when they're reunited.
I know,
at
he
the
just
end of
holds him and goes,
Generations.
Spot. And I think he appears again in Nemesis. Nemesis? And then he comes back in Star Trek Picard Season 3.
He has a bigger and more pivotal role than Moriarty.
Yes, he does. It's like he basically is he's emblematic of Data's humanity. And when Data gives lore, Spot, right? It's like it's really this sort of big symbolic moment.
It's hugely important. His love for Spot is hugely important in Picard Season 3. It helps him to defeat Lore,
Yeah.
because of this love that he has for this cat. So, I mean, there's no wonder that Spot is so high on our list.
No, it's just a great idea, and it's like as facetious as I think a lot of this episode has been. Spot
What?
like is a legitimately
Facetious?
great idea.
What are you talking about?
This is a very serious episode. This is number
Very
10 of our
serious
top
people.
10 holiday countdown.
You're right. Sorry.
Don't make fun
Anyway,
of
about
this.
Paw Patrol.
Yeah, okay. Fantastic. It's Data and his pet Spot go on adventures. It's the Aristocats meet Star Trek.
Oh my god.
No? Well, we can't go with Paw Patrol.
Well,
Can't be
what
Paw
you
Patrol.
could do though is you could do like a Milo and Otis with like Porthos and Spot, and they have to make their way instead of going across, the country. They have to go across the galaxy together to get back to their owners.
So it's like Voyager meets Milo and Otis.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to
But we
go
have
back.
these crossover characters because they've got, they'll bring in the
Otis.
Otis.
You want to see a long arm? Okay. Well, we loved Spot. We love the Spot, but we're really getting down to it. We're getting down to the top 2 picks of our Star Trek pets. So really, this is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak.
You know what
And,
a pet does with number 2?
And for our number 2 pick, Rob Meyer Burnett is back to tell us what makes the cut.
This is easily the most valiant of all of the pets on this list. Who actually, without this pet, one of our principal characters might not ever have gone to Starfleet or indeed left home. And this pet was first mentioned in a second season original series episode called Journey to Babel. And I'm, of course, speaking of Ichaya, Spock's pet Sailot.
A teddy bear.
And yes, Amanda Grayson calls it a teddy bear, and of course Spock McCoy's going to give him hell for having a teddy bear. And Spock, Darren, what does Spock tell McCoy?
On Vulcan, the teddy bears are live and have 6-inch fangs.
That's right. Of course, Ichaya was Spock's pet, and he was kind of a combination of a bear and a cat and a walrus.
Yeah.
Kind of a
Goo
big,
Goo
goofy looking but very cute.
He had a broken tooth.
And of course, Ichaya followed Spock out into the Vulcan plains, up to the Vulcan's forge,
Right.
for the Coswan ordeal.
It wasn't actually the Coswan ordeal.
He was preparing for the Cosmo.
He was preparing for the Coswan.
You're right. That's right. It wasn't. He went premature.
You made the same mistake that Selleck did by thinking it was the Coswan.
It's because he's a Tyran, Darren.
And
a
that's
Tyran.
why the animated series doesn't belong at number 10.
Speaking
on
of
Entertainment Weekly's
speaking of
list.
Tyran, that scene where Amanda and McCoy are talking in Journey to Babel, she clearly says that was Spock's pet Sailot, and immediately after that, McCoy says, "Sell it."
Yes.
What? McCoy's not listening to Amanda.
No, he's not.
No,
Bedside
it's
manner.
his
He's
southern
drunk.
accent.
It's not the Southern
Tell it.
accent. It's not.
But
I-
of course, we have to mention that Ichaya fought a Lamatya.
That's right.
And
In the
That
Langen
sounds like a
foothills.
isn't that like a Mitchell? Isn't that like when you have a beer that's got like Tabasco sauce in it, or
Look,
it's a
all I
Nana
know is that
Lamancha.
Ichaya fought this big dangerous animal
Yes.
and was himself
Himself
wounded,
mortally wounded.
saving Spock's life. And
the needs of the
this
many
was,
outweigh the
Spock
needs
tried to
of the
find a
few.
Vulcan healer, but
Not in
it didn't
time.
happen. The claws of the Lamachia poisoned Ichaya. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that it has been said in Star Trek beta canon instances, for instance, that when McCoy had Spock's Katra inside of him, that he had memories. He was gifted with memories of Ichaya. And also in the Star Trek novel Sarek, Amanda Grayson had a diary entry where she said that Spock would be well looked after by Ichaya.
I like to think that Ichaya's sacrifice is what inspired Spock at the end of Star Trek II.
There you go.
That's in beta canon too.
All we have to do is edit in a couple of flashback scenes.
I'm like, what would Ichaya do? Ichaya would go
And
in
then all of a
and
sudden
like,
James Horner's music goes to dun, 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 dun. I have to say, all kidding aside, this is such a marvelous yesteryear is so marvelous. Look, we've all, I think, lost a beloved pet in our lives, right? And the message of this episode was, yeah, he could keep Ichaya alive, but in pain.
But he'll be in pain.
Or he can let him go, as hard as that decision is to make. And for a kids TV show, to deal with this, and Dorothy to deal with this in the way that she did, and to make it an entertaining show that you know and still have this message embedded in 22 is extraordinary. Yeah. And to take this little throwaway gag from Journey to Babel and build a whole episode around it, that's fantastic. And completely different from City on the Edge of Forever, even though it uses the Guardian as the catalyst, is wonderful. And Ichaya is a really cute little, not so little, a pet that he has. And he's not pink either.
Star Trek's Old Yeller.
He's Star Trek's Old Yeller. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's
true. And then, of course, we see a Sellout, I think, in the Forge on Enterprise as well, who's not nearly as friendly.
No.
Because he's a feral Sellout.
Feral Sellout is a Star Wars.
He's a sellout.
So, But this is a great character. We love it. It's a great pet. It's a true pet.
True pet.
And it's something that only Star Trek could do, and more power to it. It's fantastic.
Who do you do?
So, and it's a reason why the animated series, for any of its faults, still looms much larger in the canon than a lot of people give it credit for.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So we're going to be back with our honorary mentions. I can't wait. Can't wait to find out what your honorary mentions are after these brief commercial messages. So stay tuned, because you don't want to miss our number one pick for the top 10 Star Trek pets. We'll be back in a second. And we're back. It's time for honorary mentions. And man, am I excited. Because normally I kind of have an idea what you're going to pick.
You got no idea.
Not today. I have no idea. But I'm about to find out, as is our audience. So, as always, we start with Robert Meyer Burnett with his honorary mention. These are picks. These are individual picks, not consensus picks that could have easily ended up on our list but didn't. And this will be Robert Meyer's.
I think I know what yours is, Rob.
He's doing a little dance for those of you who aren't watching this on video. He's getting down tonight. Rob, go ahead.
I am getting down tonight, and this is actually kind of a bait and switch, because this pet actually has a piece of music dedicated.
The Orion Slave Girl?
No.
Oh, God.
I'm talking, of course, Laura Banks, Khan's pet in Star Trek II.
Oh, my God.
Khan.
Oh, my God.
That's right. Not the Khan's pet music cue from the Star Trek II soundtrack, which is about the SETI eels that Khan has. I'm talking about Laura Banks. Mark knows who I'm talking about.
That was one of my choices too, Rob.
You have outdone yourself. Now, for the audience that doesn't get this reference, there were two helmsmen in Star Trek II. One played by Laura Banks, she never had a name, but in the publicity material on the 8x10s that were distributed by Paramount by our good friend Eddie Egan, she was referred to as Khan's pet. This is a reference probably to what at the time was very popular, the Penthouse pet, which was a centerfold in Penthouse magazine. And in this, she's referred to as Khan's pet.
Could I have given you anything else?
No,
Khan's
because
Solation
it's you.
Prize after
It's
the
you.
death of his beloved Marla MacGyver.
It's me. Well, it's like, of course,
Khan's pet, Laura
I
Banks.
think she was probably like a daughter of Khan. I don't think she was like Khan's, paramour
or
anything
someone
like
else's
that.
daughter that was
right.
born on SETI Alpha, although she would be
Those numbers don't add up.
They don't add up.
Yeah,
Probably
Well, maybe
not.
the planet accelerated growth or
Sure.
something.
I don't know what was going on. Something kind of funky. But yeah, Khan's pet, Laura Banks. She'll
Khan's
be pleased
pet,
to
Laura
know.
Banks.
She'll be pleased as punch to know she made the list. A little surprised, but pleased as punch. We'll have to let her know.
Surprised yet pleased.
Okay.
But at least they're talking about me.
That was another terrific episode, I have to say. We'd have never thought that our interview with Laura Banks would be so interesting. But oh man,
Yeah, it was.
That was a great episode. She talked about dating Bill, and she talked about Jack Nicholson being obsessed with her, and all kinds of great stories.
So you're one of Khan's pets, are you?
Okay, that was Rob's pick, Khan's pet, Laura Banks, for his honorary mention for top 10 Star Trek pets. Brings us to Ashley Edward Miller.
All right. Before I give you my honorary mention, I wanted to point out the T-shirt that I was wearing in honor of this list, which you can't see, like if you're not watching a video, but it's from Comic-Con a couple of years ago. It is Snoopy, and his thought bubble says, "I am on the moon." He's wearing a little space suit. It's all that stuff. So there you go. Beagles
Charles
and Snoopy.
Schultz's Peanuts.
What? However, the thing that we can say about Snoopy above all other things is that Snoopy was a dog, which brings me to my honorary mention, which is the dog from Lower Decks, a genetically engineered golden retriever, the creation of Orion. Actually, she's an Orion because she pronounces it correctly. Tendi, who didn't really understand how actual dogs worked, so she kind of gave him everything. He could walk on walls. He could shoot lightning out of his mouth. He could release like bats from his face. And actually it was a she, and speak using the universal translator. It just was completely bananas. And of course, eventually, poor thing had to go and live on what they called the farm. But the dog was fun, and I loved the dog. I love two kinds of dogs. I love golden retrievers, and I love beagles because I've had them both. And so there you go, man. I had my beagle fixed tonight. I have my golden retriever fixed tonight. Of course, my golden retriever couldn't walk on walls or shoot lightning bolts out of his ass.
Okay. Didn't see that one coming.
No, you didn't.
Okay, number 3, Darren Dochterman. What's your honorary mention?
I have so many honorary mentions I can't decide.
Ooh, welcome to my world.
Yeah, it's not Thursday.
So Mark, maybe you ought to do yours, and then I'll
Really?
I'll come back.
My gosh, you're throwing the whole show out.
I know.
Here.
Messing
Oh
with
my
my
God.
changing the conditions of the test.
Well, I got a bunch too. But I'm going to tell you. But you risk me stepping on your choice.
Maybe, but I'll call it out if it's one of mine.
Okay, I have a couple of thoughts. One is the purple horse in Star Trek V, but he's not really a pet.
No, he's just a horse.
That they used to go into the Planet of Galactic Peace.
Right.
Of course, there's the wonderful Butler from Star Trek Generations, Kirk's
Butler.
dog. I'm not going to honor that movie with any kind of acknowledgement. But I mean, Rob, remember when we were in Shatner's office and he had the two Dobermans?
Yeah.
And man, they
Zeus
were
and
scary
Apollo.
as shit. We were like sitting there. We were not going to misbehave. Whatever Bill said, we were going to do, because basically we were sitting sinking into the couch, and the two Doberman. It was like in Moonraker. I
They
was just
saw
waiting
you
for
as
him to
two
snap
piles
his
of meat.
fingers. You know, it's like
They just looked at you and you turned into cartoon steaks.
it's like this guy. You know, it's like we weren't going to leave there until he did the movie, and he's like, see that some harm comes to them. It's like, oh my
The
god,
Doberman gang.
They were actually lovely,
I
but
love
I'm
that
just so
movie.
conditioned by movies like The Omen and Moonraker to think that Dobermans are vicious animals. But that was crazy because we always knew that Shatner loved his Dobermans, but it was like weird having the two Dobermans like sit, and they were coming up on the sofa, and it's like I like dogs, but I don't really like sitting next to a Doberman like slobbering on me at any moment, knowing that he could completely
Rip your throat out.
yeah, pretty much. So, does MRes count as a pet?
No.
She's a cat? I guess
No.
not. Okay.
She's a
I was gonna-
liberated female. She's part of the
Yeah,
bridge
okay.
crew.
Yeah.
She's
Now-
no one's pet.
If we were doing best Star Trek plants, I would go with Beauregard. But-
That was one of mine.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was my
Beauregard one
first
of-
before I came up
Oh,
with
really?
somebody
See,
better.
there's a Little Shop of Horrors episode. Just
Yeah, totally.
Crying
It's
out to
Star
be in
Trek meets the Little Shop of Horrors with Beauregard.
And
That's
remember,
right.
it's,
In 2 days.
it's Beauregard or Gertrude as Rand.
Okay, well, listen,
He ran
you're gonna
across,
you're gonna all be horrified by my pick, but this is my pick for honorary mention. It's the one thing I like about Discovery.
oh god.
It's Grudge the cat. I love that character. It's such a cute cat. He's big and he's fun-loving, and he's the cat of like the character who they introduced in a later season, who I thought was one of the more interesting characters that they introduced. Cleveland Booker. He had a nice, cool name. He sounded like he should be doing a CBS
A
procedural.
UPN show.
My name is Booker, Cleveland Booker. But and he solves crimes with his cat Grudge. Wait, this is better than Discovery already. The crime solving Cleveland Booker with his cat Grudge. But I love that.
Take a
Grudge
bite out of
cat.
crime.
Plus, I love that Tilly didn't like Grudge because I can't stand that Tilly character. So Grudge was even better because he was getting all the hate from the Silver Tilly. But I think that Grudge is one cute cat. And I'm not rating the show. I'm just saying,
Right.
best Star Trek pets, Grudge the cat from Discovery.
Okay, now I'll tell you mine.
Okay. What's
Okay.
yours?
Mine is from the first Star Trek. It is Captain Pike's horse, Tango.
What a great pick. Whoa.
Wow.
Well done.
That's really good.
Nicely done.
Well
Gotta
done.
go all the way to the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny. We were filming an episode of one of our TV shows, and Rob, we were filming a scene with a horse, and Rob changed the script so that the actress would call him Tango.
I did do that.
Yeah, and it was like, and then immediately he said, "Listen, look, you're gonna love this, Mark." And it's like, she says, and we're filming, and he goes, "Oh, this is Tango," or I'm like, "That's great."
That was in Help Me Rhonda.
That was Help Me Rhonda. Yep, Tango the horse. Yep, that's right. Tanit and Tango.
Tango and Cash.
And my other one was Worf's Targ, who we see in is it Where No Man Has Gone Before?
Yeah, that's not as good.
It's not as good,
Tango's better.
but
not
it
as
is.
good.
It's
But he
just
is
as
there.
good as a lot of our other picks.
I don't know which one you would be referring to,
Because
sir.
it's a pig with a wig.
It's a Piggly
Oh.
Wiggly.
It sounds like something I could get at Bucky's.
Okay, but I like the Tango pick.
I like Tango.
I'm down with the Tango. What's your other picks?
No, mine was Beauregard, Worf's Targ, and Tango.
Okay.
Okay, when
That's-
we do top 10 Star Trek plants, we got the spores.
Right.
We got Beauregard. we got the plants in the cage, the
Right.
singing plants. What other great Star Trek
Wow.
plants do we have?
That's a
Botany
good one.
Bay?
No, not Botany Bay. That's funny.
Okay.
I almost picked. You know what I almost picked? I almost picked the other con's pet because there were two of them. There was Laura Banks and there was Nancy something or other. I said,
Yeah,
I
but
could
Nancy's
pick
not a
Nancy.
great name for a pet.
No,
Well,
but she
we
isn't
could-
great for a salt monster.
We could always pick Marcia.
Smell it, Nancy.
Smell it, Nancy.
That's my
Marcia
band name.
from Whom Gods Destroy. She was a pet.
She was a pet.
Oh yeah.
What'd she turn into? She's like
She didn't
she
turn
just
into
turns
anything.
a creature,
No, she didn't turn into anything.
and she turns into Kirk. She never turns into a pet.
She doesn't turn into Kirk. No, not from that movie. From Whom Gods Destroy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about
No,
Martia
no.
from Star Trek 6.
The Comaloid?
The Comaloid, yeah. Yeah, but you would never bring up Star Trek 6.
No, I would not.
Speaking of Star Trek 6, Rob, did you order your Kruge? Not your Kruge, Chang from Exo 6?
Come on, man.
Chang,
Of course.
Chang.
I did
Captain Sulu,
I did too.
Chang.
My Moshe Diane Chang action figure.
I can't wait to get that Chang figure, man.
Oh, it's good.
It's
I mean, that was-
good.
the prototype's good. So imagine how good the final one's gonna
Oh
be.
yeah. Exo 6 is killing it, man. Killing it.
The prototype, the model for us all.
Although he's so funny, he's so defensive about the Wesley not selling. He's like, well, you're going to regret it later. No, not really.
No.
Not so much.
I'm good.
I would have
You know what?
bought a Wesley just to punch it in the face.
I would say if you made like a Jerry O'Connell action figure also, and the other kid from and River Phoenix, then maybe I would have
Oh my
bought him
God,
with my
that's
Stand By
hilarious.
Me action figures. And then I
Wow.
could have a train set and have them stand around and body, could have like a body, you know, but I wouldn't buy him for a Star Trek action figure.
No.
Just Stand By Me action figures.
That
Yeah,
was
and you
that was a
can- and you can-
miscalculation.
And you can dress up the River Phoenix like young Indiana Jones.
That's the
That's
same
true.
reason he didn't make Kess. He shouldn't have made Wesley.
Yeah.
He could have made Kesley.
Oh, and speaking of, unproduced
Not
Star
up,
Trek
Kesley.
toys, our friend Brian Volk Weiss, we talked about his line of unproduced Star Trek figures.
Right.
He should do Sloane. They never did Sloane.
He should do Sloan.
I'm gonna text him and tell him. Well, I'm not gonna text him because
Hey, are we gonna have a watch party?
For
Section
what?
31.
Nope.
Are we though?
why would we do that?
Why would you do that?
No, I don't think we are, Rob.
Okay.
Maybe on the Discord channel we could all watch it together. That might be fun.
Wow. Don't make me. Don't make me.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like
okay.
me when I'm ugly.
You know what? I haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's great. I know a lot of
Sure.
people who have seen it who did not think it was great,
Oh.
and I'm being,
I'm sure they're just
generous with
haters.
it. No, they like everything. They're like Mikey. No, not like Mikey. They like everything. They like the guy who I talked to, who's a couple of people. They've seen it and they did not like it, but who knows? Maybe it's
Who
great.
knows?
Have you seen it, Rob?
No.
When
Yeah, I don't
does
think I
it
want to watch
drop?
it. I mean, the last time
Has
I
it
watched
dropped?
something with all you guys was
Friday.
when we watched the Battlestar Galactica miniseries. And the problem is we start watching it and talking through it, and by the time it was over, we didn't like it. And,
It's
don't
like
know.
what did the guys from the Muppet Show?
Statler
Statler
and
and
Waldorf.
Waldorf.
Yeah.
So,
Stellar
I
Waldorf.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to watch it. I don't know if I'm going to watch it, to be honest. I just,
You
just-
have to.
I
love
almost have
Section-
to. It's
I love
you know
Section
what?
31. I love Michelle Yeoh, but I don't love Michelle Yeoh in Section 31.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I already seen all three of them. I like them. I don't know if I need to see. I don't know. Maybe I'll wait till you guys watch it and you can. Tell me
Maybe
if you
I'll
watch
you know
it.
what? I'll have a watch party where I will first I'll watch Inter Arma Enum Silent Legis,
There you go.
and I'll watch this Section 31 movie and go, what? It's this.
I don't know. I think it'll depend if Isaac wants to watch it. If he wants to watch it, maybe I'll watch it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right.
What's number
Yeah.
one?
Okay, so that was our honorary mentions. Rob, you picked Laura Banks' Khan's Pet from Star Trek 2. Ashley picked the dog,
dog.
from Lower Decks. I picked
It's just the
Grudge
dog.
from Discovery. And Bring Us All Home was Darren Doctorman with Tango the Horse from The Cage and the Menagerie. Great pick. So that brings us to our number one pick. And have you guessed yet at home? Any idea what number
Of course
one
you
is going to
have.
be?
Of course, everybody has. Come on,
I'm
man.
not sure they have, but it is The Only Love Money Can Buy. And of course, we're talking about tribbles. And if you think cats are tranquil and charm the human nervous system, you've never met a tribble. Man, these are the most wonderful pets. The only problem is, once you feed them, they multiply like, I don't know,
Like
they
tribbles.
multiply,
Like tribbles.
geometrically.
They're
So,
bisexual, reproducing at will.
you don't get,
Which
and if
I
you
don't think
feed 'em,
means
don't
what
get
you
one
think it
I
hungry-
don't that word do not mean what you think it means.
You don't get one hungry triple.
You get a lot of hungry baby trip.
And
Or by curious, maybe.
let's face it, the Trouble with Tribbles is one of Star Trek's most beloved episodes. Great reason for it. It's hysterical. It's charming. It created the Tribbles. It created Cyrano Jones. It is just wonderful. We see them again, of course, in Trials and Tribulations on Deep Space Nine, as well as more Troubles, more Tribbles, more Tribbles, more Troubles, more Troubles, more Tribbles,
more trouble.
in the animated series, and occasionally making cameos throughout the Star Trek saga, including in Star Trek 3 and other shows as well, because people think if you put a Tribble in, it makes it Star Trek.
Well, it does.
Of course, I think we all
That's what
own
she
our
said.
own Tribbles, and it is a delightful pet. Uhura was the first person to be turned on to the Tribbles, and made the mistake of bringing it on board. And of course, many Tribbles ensued.
Hey, Lieutenant,
Or
seeing
the
as you're
Enterprise.
giving them away, can I have one?
And they wound up in the Klingon engine room.
Where there won't be any Tribbles at all.
There'll be no trouble at all.
Yeah. So it's just a wonderful
You
look.
bastard.
Tribbles are distinctly Star Trek. Anyone who's a Star Trek fan knows about the Tribbles. They love the Tribbles.
And people who aren't
And-
Star Trek fans know about the Tribbles,
That's right.
And yeah, that's right. Originally known as Fuzzies.
right?
Jesus.
A
But
fuzzy
Tribbles
thing
is a better
happened.
name.
A fuzzy thing happened on the way to the Star.
Enterprise.
And you know, David Gerald, who's written so many great books and so much, such a great raconteur and so many great stories, but he'll always be remembered for his brilliant Trouble with Tribbles script as a young. I mean, who's what? He's still a teenager. Or he's in his young teenager or
Basically.
young early 20s when he
Very
wrote Trouble
early
with Tribbles under the mentorship of Dean Kuhn.
Yep.
It's a brilliant script. It's a brilliant creation, and it's our pick for the #1 Star Trek pet.
It's true.
It's true. It's well chosen.
It's true.
I agree with us.
It's true, Hilly.
It's the one thing everybody wants too. If you're a Star Trek fan, everybody wants a real Tribble.
Everybody wants one.
But
Yeah.
they don't
I
want
want
them
one
to,
too.
you know, keep giving birth to hungry little Tribbles.
I have
That's-
3 of them from Trials and Tribulations.
The weird
I
part
do.
is
I've
one
one of them from Trials and Tribulations. I have one of them I purchased from David Gerald, and then one that was one of those retail ones. That,
Yeah, I'm really disappointed that one of our honorable mentions wasn't a glommer.
I
Well, that's not
about
a pet.
that.
or
It's a
medium
predator.
slime devil.
It's not a
Top
pet.
10 Star Trek Predators, go.
Bugatu.
Well, and the canine from Alpha 177 was a pet. I guess
Yeah.
it was. Somebody was pet. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Scotty was
Well,
petting.
I mean, now
some
all of a
point.
sudden I'm thinking that that the salt monster kind of was a pet.
No,
So is the-
Professor Crater was the pet.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. We're probably missing a few. We'll let people tell us. And of course, next week, we're going to return with a bunch of our guests from 2023 that are going to give us their picks for all our top 10 lists.
It's the
along
holiday
with, tell us
special,
where
The
they-
Rebuttal.
The rebuttal, where they think we got it wrong. So this is the episode where we're put on trial because the trial never ends. We should get
Trial
Delancey.
never ends.
Get Delancey. He's like, what is this, Star Trek? What happened in the show? There were episodes that I'm not in?
Does that mean Picard would be Delancey's pet?
Yes.
Yes.
In a way, that's true, isn't
Sure,
it?
said
Probably
that.
thinks of it that way.
Childlike podcast.
Too late now.
Child.
But maybe if you could turn it into a Paw Patrol show, somebody will want to do it.
That's right.
Or a Sonic the Hedgehog, apparently.
With
is a big thing
Livingston.
now. With Livingston, right. With Livingston the fish. It's
Fish
Bubble
Police.
Guppies meets Next Generation.
It's time. Let's set a course for lunch.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I always found Octonauts much more entertaining than Bubble Guppies.
Me
because
too.
they went on adventures. It kind of was Star Trek Under the Sea, right?
Under
the
the sea.
the Octonauts. And
Yeah.
they were like cool characters. There was Peso, who was a little afraid, and there was Captain Barnacles, who was, you know, he was larger than charge. He was more decisive than Pike in Strange New Worlds.
Is this something
Captain
you have to have
Barnacles.
kids to understand?
Yeah, pretty
Yes.
much. And but then there was the Bubble Guppies, which was where they went to school, and it was much more geared for a young audience. Whereas
Yeah.
Octonauts, you know, they had the creature report. You learned a lot
Creature
about
report.
creatures under the sea.
Creature
They had,
report.
and it would tell you about the Twilight
This
Zone.
is a
and
Megatu.
It was like kind of like it had the abyss element to it. And my favorite was the episode with the comb-toothed blenny that was basically Peter Lorre. They had this fish that talked like Peter Lorre. Yeah, you see, I'm a comb-toothed blenny, see? It was great.
That's not Peter
It was
Lorre.
more
Peter Lorre.
Cagney. It was more Cagney. Okay, it was
Yeah.
more Cagney. No, yeah, it was more Cagney. Oh, his Peso sounded like Peter Lorre. That he was more like Cagney. Yeah. Because Peso the Penguin sounds like Peter Lorre, like in Casablanca. Like you expect him, help me, Rick, help me.
Rick.
Rob's looking like, what the hell is going on this
What is
show?
this?
It's
I thought
okay.
I thought this was a show about Star Trek.
I believe the term is off the rails.
Yes.
I'm just
Or
saying,
punchy.
that there, that maybe there's a show there.
I think there's a show.
Maybe not.
There's
don't
a
know.
show.
I'm
There's
just
always
so
a show.
happy that our countdown is over, which
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're excused from attending our rebuttal episode next thing.
I'm
And
not
then-
happy it's over.
I am.
I love these episodes.
Me too. They're fun.
I don't know. We did a lot of them. I'm kind of done. The thing is, we already know what our holiday special is going to be for next year, which is crazy. It's the first time we actually know what our holiday special is a year early. It's not really a year early. It's like 3 months early.
We do?
Yeah, we talked about this.
Oh.
Well, we're not going to talk about it now. We
No.
don't want anybody to steal our ideas. Like Paw Patrol meets. We should never said that because now we can't pitch it because someone's going to go to Paramount with it.
I know. Probably
Yeah,
Kurt.
gonna go
it's
Sky-
out of the world.
They're going to go to Skydance. It's Paw Patrol meets Star Trek. Sold. Is this an original idea? Oh yeah. It's not like we heard it on the Treksperts.
Yeah, it's like those who walk away from Umlaus, that Ursula K. Le Guin story. We can just use
Well,
that.
Even though we're going to be back next week with the rebuttal, I want to thank Rob for being such a good sport as always. It's not an easy commitment to commit to these countdowns. We spend a lot of time talking about Star Trek. 10 episodes. They all were at least over 2 hours, if not
It's
more.
practically a quarter of the season.
And
Yes,
Rob,
it's
you're always
true.
such a good sport to join us from the observatory. But Rob spends a lot of other time. He got shows to do and things to
Yeah,
talk
but
about.
I got to keep doing it. Why not? Why you got to?
Why stop
keep it
now?
going.
You have to help.
And if you can't get enough of Rob on these holiday specials, you got to check him out on the Burt Network, which is on YouTube apparently. No, I know that.
Apparently.
Don't you think I know that? And check him out on YouTube where he holds forth on Star Trek as well as many other fascinating pop culture subjects.
But mostly Star Trek.
Mostly.
No,
Mostly.
I've tried to back off on Star Trek. Actually,
Rob mostly comes at it.
Did you finally
Mostly.
finish Skeleton Crew? Did you watch any more
I
episodes?
have not. I'm still trying to finish True Noir, so I've been
Oh, right.
working.
Well,
working,
Rob's
working.
busy with work as opposed to watching a bunch of TV. So that's good for you. Good for you.
Good for you.
And Rob's new audio drama, True Noir, is available now. So you want to pick that up
With
wherever
Sloan,
you-
with the real Section 31.
But are there any pets in it?
Are there any pets in it? No, there
See?
aren't.
No pets. No pets. But
No pets.
if you could name, so if you had a dog or a cat and you could name them after any Star Trek character, what would it be, Darren?
Oh Jesus.
Remember our friend TJ had Spock, had Mr. Spock.
Right.
She did.
He did, had Mr. Spock.
What would I?
That's when I knew she was cool. When she's, I got a cat named Mr. Spock. I'm like, okay, cool.
You see, when I had my tabby cat, I named him Hobbs from Calvin and Hobbes.
But that's not the question.
I know, but I'm trying to vamp while I think of what my answer would be from Star Trek.
There are only
Well,
so
you
many
think of it.
characters.
I'll,
Okay,
I'll
well,
tell
yeah.
you that I
Ashley,
had
go
a
ahead.
dog named Q.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Q.
After
great.
James Bond?
No. After The Trial Never Ends.
Oh, okay. After John
Oh,
Delancey.
for a second there, I
Yeah.
thought you named it Hugh, the
Q.
Borg.
Oh, no, Q. The
Q,
letter Q.
the letter Q.
Letter Q.
After
We
Corbin
call
Bernsen.
ourselves the Q.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Rob? You've had many cats and now dogs in your
We have
long-
4 dogs. I have 4 dogs.
Yeah, and you had a cat named Kubrick. I always loved.
I had my cat. She lived for 12 years. Kubrick was
Wow.
a she, and she actually died the same day she was born. She was born on
Wow.
April 1st. I mean, not the exact same day.
You mean
but-
in a
but
different year?
12 years later? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she died. She was born in 1995, and she died on April 1st,
Oh.
2007. And she was a great cat, and then she got she was sick for a day, and then her gums started bleeding, and I took her directly to the Overland Pet Clinic that was right up the street from the old mine fire offices.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I went in there thinking they would help her, and they told me she was in complete renal failure.
Oh,
Oh.
Jesus.
And it was I mean, I'd lost pets before, but I mean, I'd raised her since she was a little kitten. And what's really interesting, I'll tell you what, the last 2 years, we intentionally raised 3 litters of puppies. So we bred our 50% Irish setter and 50% doodle with a purebred poodle. So Tallulah was bred with Sebastian, and we had 3 litters of doodles, Irish doodles that
Not
were
Belle and Sebastian?
no, but so I raised 24 puppies.
Jesus.
And
Wow.
we raised them in our
You're like Cruella DeVille.
Raise them.
Yeah, we had a pen that we had built that was in our bedroom that came outside into the back patio, and we had put AstroTurf out there so the dogs could go in and out. And I'll tell you something, I never thought I would raise puppies or go through that experience. But Elizabeth kind of turned me into a dog person, and I have to say, what was really interesting was, we did it for commercial reasons, but I raised those puppies like every day. I fed them.
Did
I
they
played
suckle
with
at
them.
your breast?
They did not do that.
Okay.
But what was amazing was when we found people who wanted them, we were very strict. One of the most gratifying things I've ever done in my life, when we had people come, like usually it was families or couples with small children, to watch these people interact. We had 1 litter with 9 puppies, 1 litter with 8 puppies, and 1 litter with 7 puppies. To watch people go in, we had out in our patio, we had this enclosed area where they would come meet the dogs. And puppies kind of choose you. You don't choose them. And the sheer joy of watching people pick these dogs and watching them interact with these dogs for the first time was amazing. And we've kept up with a lot of these people. They've sent us pictures as the dogs have grown. One small child who suffers from epilepsy, the dog is being trained, or is trained as a service dog in case the boy has a seizure. And seeing, other people with these dogs, and they send pictures. Terry Metalis took one of our dogs. His wife Amy has one, and
that's great.
It's been incredibly gratifying to watch these dogs grow and to see what they mean to people.
That's
And
wonderful. But that didn't answer the question at all. The question was, if you had a pet that you would name after a Star Trek character, what would it be?
That's a good character, Trelane.
Oh, that's
Ooh,
good.
that's a good one.
Good one.
That's a good one.
Are you challenging him to a duel?
Darren has one now.
I have one now. I would call a cat Reliant.
Oh, good.
Lion.
Good. I
Spells like
it.
lion.
Excellent.
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 Now I want to name a dog Trelane. That's what I want to name my next dog.
A dog
I-
named
you
Trelane.
Are you
Playful-
challenging me to a
A
duel?
playful dog.
Yeah,
named
if you have the
Trelane.
courage.
And you can go greetings and felicitations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Well, Rob, it's been an absolute delight having you here on the show, and we'll see you next week for the rebuttal. So make sure you come heavily armored, because I have a feeling we'll be suffering the slings and arrows, not of outrageous fortune, but of our friends who feel that they could attack us from all sides.
Yeah, but they're
Like
wrong.
Hannibal,
Exactly,
they can
that's the beauty
envelop
of it.
us and attack. So we have to stick together and defend our lists. I don't know if we can defend today's list, but we can defend the rest of them. So,
In some ways, we could
anyway,
defend today's list almost more easily than any other list
This
that
is
we
true.
made.
Perhaps you're right. I don't know. Maybe we should have had Butler on the
Perhaps
list.
you're right.
Butler.
No.
Hey, Butler. But you know what? If they can't have Edith Keeler, we can't have Butler.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to remind everybody that Inglorious Treksperts, Treksperts Briefing Room, Deck 78, are part of the Treksperts Podcast Network. Copyright 2025 by Treksperts Plus. Executive producers are Mark A. Altman, DAREN, DOCHTERMAN, and Ashley Miller. Shows produced by Peter Holmstrom and Brian Mix. Sound mixing by Mark Rivera. Original music by Joe Kramer. Video editing by Brian Mix. And you can open hailing frequencies by emailing us at trekspertsplus@gmail.com or find us on all major social channels, including Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Nothing but Blue Sky at Inglorious Trek or Inglorious Treksperts. You can subscribe to Inglorious Treksperts and Tech 78 on Spotify at trekspertsplus.com, or now you can follow us on YouTube. And that's really about it. We're about to wrap up the official part of the countdown with the rebuttal coming next week. And until then, on behalf of the very merry Robert Meyer Burnett, a very astute Ashley Edward Miller, a very driven DAREN DOCHTERMAN, and a very mopey Mark A. Altman, keep on trekking, ingloriously, of course. See you next week.